You're walking along the coast 82,000 years ago, and you find a small shell. Not food, not a tool, just a shell, so you poke a hole through it, string it onto a piece of cord, and wear it around your neck. That's the whole action. And yet, archaeologists have found shells exactly like this one, buried over 40 kilometers inland, far from any coastline. Somebody carried it there, on foot, on purpose, before writing existed, before farming existed, before money existed in any form, and that single shell is one of the earliest signs we have of something that looks exactly like wealth. So let's actually break down what getting rich meant before money existed, because the idea is a lot simpler than people think. It comes down to three things. You have something rare, that thing is far away from most people, and someone else wants it badly enough to give you something valuable in return. That's the entire formula, something rare, plus distance, plus desire. And everything else in this video is just that same formula happening over and over in different places, thousands of years apart. Let's start with the shells again, at a place called Blombos Cave in South Africa. Researchers found tiny shell beads about 75,000 years old, each one pierced in the same spot and coated in red dye. On their own, they just look like decoration. But at another site in Algeria, archaeologists found the exact same kind of shell buried 190 kilometers from the nearest ocean. Nobody just stumbles across ocean shells that far inland. Someone carried them there, because whoever received them wanted something their own land could never produce. Rare shell, far away, somebody wants it. The formula, playing out 75,000 years ago. And this wasn't a one-time thing. By around 40,000 years ago, people were moving shells like this over distances of more than 500 kilometers. Think about that distance for a second. That's like walking from one end of a small country to the other just to deliver a shell. And that only happens if there's a whole chain of people involved. Someone collects the shells near the coast. They pass them to someone else further inland. That person passes them along again. And every person in that chain is holding something valuable, deciding who gets it next, and gaining a little bit of status just from being the one who controls it. Now, let's go somewhere else entirely. Central Turkey, a huge ancient settlement called Çatalhöyük. This place had a problem. There was no good stone nearby sharp enough to make real tools. The closest source of obsidian, this black volcanic glass that makes some of the sharpest blades ever created by hand, was about 190 kilometers away in the mountains. And yet, obsidian tools are everywhere at this site. Some of them have even been traced back to a source over 600 kilometers away. Same formula again. Obsidian is rare because you can only find it near certain volcanoes. It's far away because the nearest source is 190 kilometers from the city. And people wanted it badly because it made the sharpest tools available. So a trade network formed to move it. Thousands of years before anyone invented writing. Before anyone built a single pyramid, one archaeologist, Brian Hayden, explained it simply. Trading things like obsidian and shells wasn't just useful, it made you important. Whoever controlled the rare material coming from far away automatically stood out from everyone else. This is where it starts to feel familiar, not because ancient people had money, but because they had already discovered the one idea all wealth is actually built on. If you control something rare and other people can't get it without you, you have power over them. Now, here's one more example. And this one comes with a myth worth clearing up first. You've probably heard that Roman soldiers were literally paid in salt, and that's supposedly where the word salary comes from. Here's what actually happened. Roman soldiers got a stipend called the salarium, which was money specifically meant for buying salt. Not bags of salt handed out as their paycheck. But the reason that money existed at all is the real story. Salt was so valuable, so necessary for keeping food from rotting and feeding animals, that Rome built an entire road just to move it. It was called the Via Salaria, the Salt Road. And it ran about 240 kilometers from the coast into the heart of the empire. An empire with legions, aqueducts, and conquered continents still built a dedicated road for one single mineral. Rare, far away, desperately wanted, the formula. Once again. So here's the pattern, laid out plainly: three completely different times in history, three completely different parts of the world, groups of people who never met each other and had no way of communicating across those distances. They landed on the exact same idea: find something rare that exists in one specific place. Build a way to move it to the people who want it. And whoever controls that movement ends up with something that works exactly like wealth, long before anyone ever invented a coin to represent it. This is the part people miss when they picture ancient humans as simple. They weren't, they were connected. Moving one shell 190 kilometers inland took planning. It took trust between total strangers who would probably never meet again. It took a shared agreement that this one object was worth carrying that far. That's not primitive behavior. That's the exact same behavior driving global trade today, just without the ships, the money, or the paperwork. And money didn't invent the idea of wealth. It just took an idea that already existed, controlling what's rare and far away, and made it small enough to fit in your pocket.